When thinking about your backup strategy, it's worthwhile reflecting on how the best practices have been evolving over time. Traditionally, organizations would back up straight to tape and then ship those tapes off site. Tape can be difficult to manage and slow to retrieve. In a disaster recovery scenario, do you have the time to wait for that tape to be retrieved from that remote location? We've seen a move away from tape to help simplify customer operations where it makes sense. We've seen evolutions from disk to disk to tape, disk to disk to disk, and more recently disk to disk to cloud. We've been leaning towards storing copies of on disk in your local location or even your DR location, and then adding to that, pushing out copies to AWS and Azure. These different strategies allow you to optimize your cost alongside your recovery time. It's important to think about where you store your data as well as how it's tiered. Your backup platform should allow you to set policies to decide where your data lives over time and for how long it lives for. For example, you may have a database backup where you may be keeping a daily backup for 7 days, and that may reside on disk that's local to your database. And then you might take that similar daily backup for a month and store that at your disaster recovery site. And then you might store, say, a monthly snapshot of that data over in AWS S3, for example, versus a different example, financial records. You may have to keep these for 7 years, and you may take a snapshot of those once a year and store those in a location like AWS Glacier. Glacier is great for storing backups, as is AWS S3, but there's trade-offs you need to consider there. So Glacier comes at a very cheap price. But there's trade-offs in terms of recovery times. So you sort of need to look at all your different workloads and how you're backing it up, and review these regularly to optimize both on cost as well as recovery times. You need to ensure that the backup platform you use allows you to set the right tiering policies, so that they're doing all of the heavy lifting for you and you don't have to worry about it as much. It's important to regularly review if you're backing up the right things, as well as your strategy for backing up those items. The first measure, obviously, is to ensure you're backing up everything that you actually care about. You don't want to lose anything in a disaster. But once you've got that covered off, you need to review your backup policies. Does a particular workload still need to be backed up for 7 years? Perhaps the organization doesn't care about it anymore. Do you need a snapshot of that workload every month, or maybe is 1 year enough, or maybe are you doing it for 1 year, but actually you really do need it every month? Are you backing your workloads up in the right places to meet your recovery time objectives? All of these different factors strongly correlate to both speed of recovery and cost. It's the old Goldilocks story. You don't want to back up too little. You don't want to back up too much. You need to get it just right for your organization.